does not give you any information on how to win. They give you information on where to donate. I'm just being honest. I'm just being honest. And so there's nothing wrong with donating. But what are you donating to? Do you have a ground game? Is there a plan of action? Are we donating to hire people to make phone calls? Are we donating to hire people to block walk? What is the strategy for for the resources that I'm giving up? So these are questions that I'm challenging you to start asking these questions. There's nothing wrong with asking questions. So we have our REC chair, who's Ron McDaniel. Vice chair is Thomas Hicks. Yes, so I know I'm a little bit of a nerd knowing all this stuff. Junior. Oh, yeah, that's right, Junior. Thomas Hicks Jr. He didn't tell me. Make sure I leave the Junior because he's not his dad. So then we have our 3 members from each state that make up our representation to the national body. So our representation is our state chair, which is Matt Rinaldi. National committee man, which is Robin Armstrong out of the Houston area. And then Tony Ann Michelle. Where is Tony Ann? She's not moving. But yeah, she's our 3rd person that makes up that. She's our national committee woman. Tony Ann, I mean, we got good representation. Tony Ann's great. How many of you participate in her TAD Talks on Friday morning? So y'all not early risers. TAD Talks are at 7 a.m. on Friday morning. It's a Zoom call. About an hour. I heard 7 a.m. Yeah, 7 a.m. It's a good. It's that pick me up in the morning. So you get to get your information firsthand from candidates or whatever the issue is or topic is of the week. She's hosting different candidates and different forums that you can engage in and learn some stuff so that you have information that you can take to your precincts, take to the people at work, people in church. Because people in church are the worst. I'm just going to be honest. 25 million people that are registered to vote that go to church didn't vote. How many of you guys go to church? So at least 10 people in your church that you know didn't vote. You know why they didn't vote? Because you didn't share the information with them. So it's your fault. Yeah, I said it. It's your fault. It is your fault.
It's my pastor's fault. We've always been able to register voters, and this year they decided it would upset people.
And even if you can't register voters, you can talk to 10 people in your church.
We did. Well, we were
and
in
you can
parking lot.
remind them. I got people that I listen to in church say, well, I don't know when election day is. I need to talk to your pastor. I'm a pastor, so I can talk to him. I'll straighten him out.
We wish you would.
We don't do that. And that's what I do. I go in and I talk to these pastors and I let them help them to understand what they can do because they're so caught up in this whole 501c3, losing my 501c3 fantasy world. But let me tell you something that you can help educate your pastors on. I'm going to school you on something real quick. This is not part of my presentation. This is for free. This little nugget that I'm going to give you for free. If you are a church, you do not have to have a 501c3 under IRS code. You do not have to have any registered documentation with the IRS as a church. You know what the purpose of the 501c3 is? So that you can receive corporate donations. As a pastor, I ain't never had Coca-Cola donate to my church. I'd take a check and use it for God's work against them and the evil that they're doing. But it doesn't happen. So help educate these pastors. If your pastor's never heard of the U.S. Pastors Council, of which I'm a member, the Texas Pastors Council, I would challenge them to get involved so they can learn what they can and can't do as a pastor and what they can and can't do as a church. Two different things. Because there are certain rules, but there are things that they can do that they're not doing. Voter registration drives in the church is something that you can do. The church cannot endorse a candidate, but your pastor can. But you got pastors that won't even do it. I will. I'll tell my church in a minute. That's the devil.
Amen.
Because my Bible says that you shall have life and you shall have it more abundantly.
That's right.
So if you are a pro-death candidate, you are the devil.
That's right.
Because Jesus came to give life and give it more abundantly.
Amen.
So if you're talking about killing babies in the womb and killing babies after they're born and all of that, and you're supporting that, or if you're like Senator Royce West who said, I'm pro-life, I just can't vote that way, you're still the devil.
Amen.
Because you are not voting what the Bible says. You're saying you stand on the Word of God, but you're not standing on the Word of God.
Amen.
You're either for it or you're against it.
Come on, brother.
There is no lukewarm. And I said that because us as activists, we have to stop being lukewarm.
Come on.
Yes.
We have to stand on our principles and our values. When we're out here talking to people, we have to stand for something or fall for everything. And I'm not going to fall for everything. I'm going to stand for righteousness. Come on, bro. Okay, state party, I'm sorry, I didn't mean I just felt that. I needed to say that. I don't know why. So, come back. Back. Or you going forward? Come back. Yeah, left arrow. Another way. Okay. We figured it. Trying to keep you out of trouble which way? Move back. All right, there we go, right there. So, state party leadership. We have our state chair, our state vice chair, 62 Republican executive committee members that vote. Do you know what your executive committee members are voting on and how they're voting? Do you know how to find out? You can ask them. That's one way. They may or may not tell you. You guys got a couple that will tell you. But if you want to know, you can go to the Texas GOP, info@texasgop.org. Shoot an email. info@texasgop.org. If it's a record vote on something, you can get a copy of that record vote. And it will be emailed to you. And it will have every SRC member's name on it, what the issue was, and how they voted. And if you don't like the way they voted, you know what you do? Vote them. Pick up the phone and get on them. And if they don't get it correct, hold them out. That's what we do. That's democracy. That's how it works. So you get one man and one woman from every Senate district. They're elected every 2 years at the state convention. Our next state convention will be in 22 in Houston, Texas. If Houston doesn't figure out a way to create another pandemic or something to keep us from coming down there. But that's where we're looking at being. They can't serve more than 8 years. I mean, even though we got one that looked like she might end up serving 16 years. Since she just got re-elected from the floor last Sunday. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. So, other non-voting officers that are part of the party, that can be part of your, yes sir.
There's lights up there, we can't see your resume.
Oh, I don't know how to turn those off. Did that do anything more? There you go. Okay, there you go. Thank you. I had no idea that light was on you. So, is that better?
Yeah. These people get voted on where?
So the SREC, they're voted on at our state convention.
So the registered voters, you have to travel to the state convention.
You have to be a delegate, and I'm going to explain a little bit of that, and I'll let Steve go into that in a little more detail. So when it comes to, when we have our primaries, you'll be electing your county chairs, electing precinct chairs. If they have an opponent, those things will be on the ballot. And after the primary election, every precinct holds a Senate district. It's either done by precinct or Senate district. There's a county chair. I mean, a precinct or a county SD convention. So it varies. I don't know if you guys do SD or by precinct here. So you guys do by precinct here. Some counties do by SD because they're structured. So you guys do by precinct. So in the voting precinct, normally after or a date that is set by the county executive committee, they will set the date and time, but it has to be, 7 days after the primary election to hold the precinct convention. And at the precinct convention, you nominate and elect delegates to go to the state convention to represent you, to vote for these individual county conventions. Yeah, county convention. And then from there, they create rules and so forth.
So you really can't call this guy and say, I'm gonna vote you out. You need to get over your delegate. So
Right.
this is how I
And that's the thing about it. For most of you guys in here, for most of the people in here, the people that come to stuff like this are the people that end up being delegates.
Okay.
That's why I was saying you guys can vote this out, because people that start getting involved, like your guys are getting involved, are the people that people in these districts elect to be delegates, because you have the information and you're sharing the information with you and you're with them and you're fostering the relationships. So you may end up being that delegate that actually has the power to go to the floor or to take that written, however they do the vote for that particular SD, and at the state convention and vote that person out. Or you may decide I want to run against them. It's a very expensive job to have though, because they have to pay all their own travel expenses and everything. They don't get reimbursed for anything. So it's a very expensive job to have. Thankfully, Steve makes a lot of money.
I just am wondering, and I've heard this before, that they don't get paid out of cent. I don't understand why the GOP would do something like that to such hard work. So I don't know, maybe you should have.
And possibly that could be something that the SREC, if they could ever agree on something like that, they could probably vote to add that into their bylaws. But I don't know if they'd ever actually come to a consensus to get a majority to do that. And then we have to raise the funds, because remember, state party and national party, they all run off of donations. So, and Democrats are better at raising money than us.
Their website's already set up for it.
Yeah. Yeah, Democrats are they're better at raising money than us. I mean, we raise on average, we raise about $3 million a year. Democrats are out raising us 10 to 1. Because, they engage people more, but we're refocusing on that pyramid that I showed you earlier. We're refocusing on rebuilding the grassroots ground game, because that's what caused us to be able to to get back to raising money, to get back to developing the ground game to where we can be effective and have our candidates elected at all levels. But it takes the ground game to make it all happen. You can have the money, but if you don't have any workers, where you gonna put the work? You gotta have somebody to make phone calls, you gotta have somebody to send out emails, you gotta have somebody to help organize events and different things, you gotta have somebody to design and put out push cards, and you gotta have money to get them printed. So all of this stuff goes together. But it takes all of us to make it work, no matter what county you're in. So not just in your county party, you have your secretary, general counsel, and an assistant general counsel. That's a state party thing. You guys are in Rockwall. You guys are pretty good. Democrats don't target you as much.
Oh, yeah. They are now. They're coming.
But they are coming. Trust me, they're coming. Because I'll tell you something that I heard when I couldn't get Republicans to join me at the Capitol on Father's Day. Because they said, oh, it's Father's Day. I'm going to be with my dad. And my dad's dead, but I like to go sit at the graveside. I said, so on Father's Day, you can't honor your dad by taking one Father's Day and going with me to the Capitol to fight against the progressive socialist left, where Robert Francis O'Rourke is holding an event to tell all of his people that we're trying to suppress their vote. You know how many Republicans I had show up to help me from a call that we put out across the state? 16.
Oh, that's good.
16 on a Sunday evening. And we set it up picnic style. I got sponsors. They sponsored barbecue and all that stuff. We had 16 of us showed up. It's ridiculous. I said, bring your family, bring your children. We'll make it a picnic. We'll have a good time, and we can educate their people. We had all the materials. We just didn't have enough people to be as effective as we should have been. There is no reason when that call went out that we shouldn't have had. They had 1,200, we should have had 10,000. Because if we really stand for election integrity, and he's down there talking about we're the ones suppressing the vote, Why can't we show up to share our narrative on one Father's Day? I'm not asking you to give up every Father's Day. Bring your kids with you. Make a Father's Day event out of it. Help your kids not to vote liberal in the future. Show them what the other side is doing in person and not just on TV. These are the places that we make a difference. That's grassroots action. And you know where? Thank you guys, Rockwall. 5 of those people came from Rockwall. Thank you guys. But we have 254 counties. And I couldn't get but 16 people. And the majority of that number came from Rockwall? Most people never even heard of Rockwall. Why couldn't I get 1,000 people from Dallas? 1,000 from Tarrant, where we know they do election theft? These people talk about how angry they are, but they won't get up off of their blessed assurance and do some work. Yes, ma'am.
I've been around a long time and I've watched this problem. And as I see it, the biggest problem Texas has right now is complacency. We have been a Republican state for a number of years now, almost 2 decades. And people have become lazy and complacent. How do we get them off of their butts?
And this is what we do. And it's working in the areas that I'm doing.
What do we say to them?
See, you don't say anything to them. All of these people that Trump brought into the fold, those are our target people. Let's energize them. And you know what's happening? As we're energizing those people, the people that went and sat down in the corner, they're coming back on the scene. Because they're seeing a new wave of energy that they hadn't seen before. And now they want to be involved. And now when we bring them back into the fold, but we chastise them as they're coming back into the fold because they're part of the problem. And we want them to understand that we don't want you to be part of the problem anymore. We want you to be part of the solution. We are the party of solutions. We are solution oriented. Let's act like it. But not just act like it, let's be it. Put your money where your mouth is, put your energy where your mouth is, put your time where your mouth is. For those of you guys that watch me on social media, and Gary's always like, man, how did you get there from there that quick? You were just over here doing this. You gotta put you gotta put your hand to the plow and work this thing. Flip to the next one. So, this is what the state party does. Liaison between the parties. Republicans within the district, they represent. But so as a state party, we're your liaison between the national party and the national elected officials, and the county party is your liaison between you and the state party. So we work together to help you guys have the tools that you need to be effective. Every precinct chair in here needs to have access to Advantage. Did you know as a precinct chair you can have access to Advantage? Advantage is our block walking phone banking app. You can have access to Advantage so you can work your precinct. If you don't have access, sign my sheet out there. I'm going to get you access and I'm going to put you to work this week. You're not going to have any, no excuses. Excuses are for 2020. We're in 2021 going into 2022. I don't want to hear it. I went to New York and bought my other truck down out of the garage in New York back in February. And I had a buddy of mine laughing at me, or that was Steve actually laughing at me. Because since February, when I bought my truck down out of the garage in New York where I'm from, I had 33,000 miles on it. You know how much of an activist I've been? I've got now, as of today, I got 158,000 miles on that car. Woo! 158, from 33,000 from February to 158,000 today. So don't tell me you can't do it. What are you willing to do for your freedom, for your liberty? Get up off of your blessed assurance and get to work. Yeah. Stop making excuses. If I sound like I'm mad, I am. Because some days I feel like this, I'm in it by myself, but it doesn't matter because I care about the liberty of all of you. Not just me, not just the generations to come, but every one of you in this room, even if you haven't been doing anything, it's never too late to get started. So, Steve, you want to come? That's all right, Steve. I'm sorry. Look at Steve's on double.
He doesn't like false up in here.
Hopefully you change plates on that truck real quick.
But it's got to be done. So Steve's going to fill you guys in on SREC.
Give it up for great Reverend Troy. Like my wife just said, it's always hard to follow up Troy because when he gets into that preaching mode, it goes on. But kind of want to touch a little bit about what Troy had touched upon about how do you get from the precinct level to you're going up through the process to get to your state convention. Because where we as the SREC, we may be the governing body, i.e. your board of directors for the state party, where we get that privilege from when the convention ends till the time that the next convention starts. Because while we're in convention, it's you, the delegates and alternates, that are in control of the Republican Party of Texas. But it starts as Troy said, at the primary, you have 7 days, and the county GOP will decide, is it going to be after the polls close, or it's going to be sometime between then and 7 days afterwards, that you're going to have your precinct convention. At that precinct convention, you're going to elect your senatorial delegates and alternates. That will be forwarded on and set for your senatorial conventions.
County.
But it's the senatorial conventions per county. So SD2 has 9 counties, 8 full rural counties and a sliver of Dallas County. So for your senatorial conventions, there's going to be 9 different conventions for Senate District 2. At that convention, that's where you're elected for your state convention to be a delegate or alternate. Once you get to state, and we're going to, the officials committee will be meeting Monday evening, and they'll be making the final decision about where the convention is going to be. Just because of monies and everything, logistics this late into the process, most likely it will be in Houston again. Back when the last contract was signed, they signed a two convention contract, one for last year, one for 2022, and just because of, we're behind the 8 ball in getting things raised because of the lawsuit that we've been in the middle of since the last convention got shut down by Houston, by the mayor. So, but at the state convention, that's where your national delegates will be elected. That's where your SREC committee man and committee woman will be elected. That's where your state party chair and your vice chair will be elected. And by party rules, for those that may not know, if you have a man elected as chair, it has to be by rule, your vice chair has to be a woman, and vice versa. If it's a woman that's elected as chair, then the vice chair has to be a man. Same thing at the national level. So that's why and last Sunday, we had the special election to fill the vacancy left when Colonel West resigned off as the state party chair. Matt Rinaldi, as Troy said, former state rep, was the first one that had come up with his name in a hat. He had asked the committee woman from SD 16 to put him in the nomination, and he asked me if I would second the nomination. When this came up, when the vacancy came up, Jerry and I sent out an email asking for our 350 delegates and alternates in Senate District 2 to get back with us who you prefer. Did you prefer Matt Rinaldi, Chad Wilbanks, which was the former executive director at the RPT back in the early 2000s, Bill Birch out of the Grand Prairie area, and David Covey, another SREC committee man out of SD3. Oh, David's going to shoot me. David is a great guy. He would have made an excellent party chair as well. But 70% of those that responded back to the request wanted Matt Rinaldi. So I was honored to second him into office, and he got, and it only took 1 vote. He got 34 votes in the first round. So he is our current now state chair. As said, one of the first things that he did, he brought in basically a corporate professional that's out of the IT industry, that's on a number of board of directors for different technology companies and such, to come in and be our executive director. You've got to hit the ground running. It typically costs about $1.5 million to put on a state convention, because you've got to account for some 18,000 people. There's never any 18,000 that'll show up, but you got to have 9,000 delegates, 9,000 alternates, just in case everybody showed up. And there's not a whole lot of cities that have the facility, 5,000, hotel rooms to house everybody in, because we typically have anywhere 10 to 12,000 delegates and alternates show up. So at that, it's your SRECs that put in your chairs for your platform committees, your rules committees, all of the processes that will go on, that all the work that we do at convention. Your SRECs will put a representative for each one of these committees from each one of the senatorial districts. Outside of that, Troy, he's a paid staff member, and as he said, SRECs, we have 9 counties. There are some SRECs that have 35 counties. So, a friend of mine up in 16, he's got 1 county. It would be a blessing to have just working within 1 county, but we're not able to get out to every county for every executive committee meeting, but we show up to if there's any questions that people have directly, what's going on in the state party, what's going on with the legislature. Fortunately, as soon as the last convention was over, we get seated. We have our first executive committee meeting, our 4th quarter meeting. Colonel West had put me on the legislative priorities committee. At convention, the delegation, there were 7,300 people in the delegation this last time when they voted on priorities. There was 8 priorities. And what we did, luckily Colonel West had put me on the legislative priority committee. We had 8 separate priorities, and they were based off of the top 8 vote getting. The number 1 priority, does everybody know what the number 1 priority was for the Republican Party of Texas? Election integrity. It had 98.36% of that 7,300 people vote election integrity. Where did election integrity finish in the regular session?
Didn't make it.
Nothing. They waited.
The Dems lead.
The Dems left, yes, but they're not at fault.
That's right.
The Republican Party is our House and Senate members, well, not the Senate members, they passed theirs. It was the House. The Speaker waited till the very last to put it on the floor for debate and adoption, and the Democrats were allowed to walk out and leave us hanging. And it wasn't just on election integrity, there were other bills that got left as well.
Gender modifications.
Yes, our second priority was religious freedom with 88.67%. Number 3 was the gender and child modification. There was a lot of information that came out toward the end of the session about most likely why we didn't see this move forward and something passed to stop this heinous act in the state of Texas. And it all has to do with corporate money. And we're still trying to push to get the governor to add that in as a priority during the special session. God willing, we get our Democrats back to where we can actually do something in the House. Our 4th priority was abolish abortion. We didn't get a bill that actually abolished abortion in the state of Texas, but what we did get, we got the heartbeat bill. After 15 weeks, you can't perform a legal abortion in the state of Texas unless it's for the health and life of the mother. The 5th priority, 85.38% was constitutional carry. I had the privilege of chairing the subcommittee to get that across the finish line. And believe me, with a Republican majority statewide, in every statewide elected office, there were Republicans. Republican governor, Republican lieutenant governor, Republican speaker of the House. Majorities in both the House and the Senate. You would not believe how hard it was I was told in this room, constitutional carry will not pass this session. Only the Second Amendment sanctuary state would pass in Texas this session. Well, during the last convention, I think there was 35 brand new SREC committee members, and about half of those were on the Legislative Priorities Committee. We didn't know what we were doing. I mean, don't get me wrong. I've been around, the state government stuff, politics and stuff since 1998. I've been down to conventions and I worked the, lobbying when I was on city councils and such, the legislature and stuff. So I knew a little bit about. But in the grand scheme of things, we didn't know what we were really doing, lobbying for our different priorities. But Chairman West said, get it done. It just got out of the way. I had Rachel, who all knows who Rachel Malone is with Gun Owners of America. A couple people. We also had Chris McNutt with Texas Gun Rights and a couple of other gun groups that we actually worked with, working on getting constitutional carry passed. It was, the Senate heard the bill, and the original bill that we wanted was Kyle Biederman's bill. It was true constitutional carry. It was not going to pass. Representative Schaefer out of East Texas, he came up with one that was a little less strong than Biederman's bill was. It started gaining some traction. It actually passed out of the House. It was surprising that the House actually passed a constitutional carry before the Senate. Lieutenant Governor Patrick kept on saying, I will not put it on the floor until I have 18 votes. We knew the 3 Republican senators that would not say one way or the other what they were going to vote on if it ever came to the floor. So it became, which came first, the chicken or the egg? We're going to get 18 votes, or we're going to get the governor, the lieutenant governor, to put it on the floor. So we started really pushing between Gun Owners of America, Texas Gun Rights, and the staff report. Does anybody know what the staff report is that our Legislative Priorities Committee puts out? Okay, a couple of folks do. It's on the TexasGOP.org website under Texas Leg, LEGE, the hashtag. You go under there, you can actually sign up. You got one of these priorities that you want to know about, or all 8. You'll get a weekly email showing where we're at. We hit the ground running. I mean, we pushed. A lot of places like Texas Scorecard, Empire, Texas, a lot of these folks, they started getting on it. I went down to testify that the Lieutenant Governor created a brand new, never before committee to hear this one bill. Senator Swardner carried it in the Senate, brought it in. I'm standing there in line, and I have a gentleman I know from Dallas County there on some other legal type bill or law enforcement type bills. I said, come here. I said, what do you think the Lieutenant Governor and the Senate's going to do with constitutional carry? He said, that's not my bag. I said, I know, but you know the Lieutenant Governor. He goes, well, at dinner last night, he does know the Lieutenant Governor. He goes, at dinner last night, he said his office has received over 10,000 phone calls about constitutional carry. Grassroots is what made constitutional carry pass this last session.
That's right.
So I was fortunate. I got the invite to go down to the Alamo when the governor signed it. We had the Lieutenant Governor, the Speaker of the House, and a special invited guest. It wasn't me from the RPT. It wasn't Rachel Malone from Gun Owners of America. It wasn't Chris McNutt from Texas Gun Owners or Gun Rights. It was Wayne LaPierre of NRA. I called them no less than a half a dozen times trying to get them to help with constitutional carry. Never got a return phone call. I never talked to anybody in the legislature that heard from him, but he was sitting at the table when the bill was signed. The grassroots were very ticked off, but we know what kind of money the NRA has.
Yeah.
I'll leave that one at that. After constitutional carry, we had the monument protection with 97.3%.
And no bills.
And no bill. There were bills, and I don't know how many people in here know our new state representative from HD2, Brian Slayton, but he wrote He had a bill for every one of the RPT's priorities.
God bless that boy.
The way he looked at it is our priorities was his priorities. Y'all elected him, he's gonna represent y'all in the House. And he's doing it again during the special session. He also had a border protection bill, to finish the wall, that he was told, that's not a priority. And it was never a priority until after the session, all of a sudden the governor made it an emergency item where he can act upon it himself. Number 7 was our school choice for all that had 79% of the vote, and then the final taxpayer-funded lobbying with 94.29% of the vote. So, we work, and I was telling a little bit earlier about, we have one guy on the SREC. He looked at, there were over 6,000 bills filed this session. He looked at every one to see if any of them fit into our priorities. And he created spreadsheets this long, where they at, the committee meetings, who signed on, when. If you want to know what happened with your legislative priorities, you can go to that page I told you about, the Texas Ledge hash mark. You can get the report. It's not a scorecard. All it does is tell you every one of the 150 House members and all 31 senators. It tells you where they voted on all 8 of your priorities. It tells you when they signed on the bill, if they signed on to the bill, did they did they present any amendments? If they did they get voted up or down? What the final outcome of the bill was. You can see that in their I'm just going to call it a legislative report on your 8 priorities. So that's kind of the work that's been done. We're doing the same thing during the special session. We're tracking the bills that meet the criteria of your 8 priorities. We're already, as I said, Monday they're going to be making the final call on where our convention is going to be. It's going to be the end of July.
Right. July 2022.
17th, 18th, 19th, something like that. Something like that. But all the details will be coming out, good Lord willing, this next week, to where everybody can start looking and planning on that. Pardon me. And immediately after that, after it's decided upon, there's a lot of work. We got $1.5 million to raise. The fees that are asked to be paid to attend, that only accounts for about 1/3 of the cost to put on a convention this size. Because as I think everybody probably knows, it's the largest political convention in the world. So it's very important that our new state chair, our new executive director, and all of the SRECs, we're going to immediately, we still got to work with the special session. We still got a special session that we know is coming up August, September for redistricting. God willing, they're working on the baseline map right now to where when they get the final numbers, all they got to do is plug in those final numbers and get ready to put it out there. But be watching for that, because it's going to affect everything that our state reps and senators do, who they're going to represent for the next 10 years. So, God willing, and Governor Abbott has already said, if the Democrats don't show back up, because all the work the Senate's still doing, they're still passing bills in the Senate. But if the House doesn't show, the Democrats do not show back up, everything that they've done so far will die. And that counts Article 10 of the omnibus bill, the funding for the staff of all of our legislature, as well as the legislative council that actually writes the bills. So if they don't show back up, their pay ends in September. So he will immediately call for another special session, and it may be the same items for the call. He may add to it. We don't know yet, but the speaker did replace the speaker pro tem. That's the number 2 guy in the House, which was he appointed him. It was a Democrat out of El Paso, Moody. He's already taken that position away from him, and we've all been asking from the SREC list. We've been pushing it out there. he needs to remove every Democrat from every chair position.
Amen.
If you ever need anything, I think most everybody knows how to get hold of Jerry. Where all of our information's on the website as well. Or Sharon knows how to get hold of me. Yeah, there you go. So just reach out at any time.
Can we find out which representatives voted for Democrats to be on their case?
The Speaker Phelan. It's his decision.
Yeah, he appoints the chairs of the committee.
Yeah, he appoints everybody to every committee.
Yeah.
That's his sole discretion.
How are they doing with arresting?
With what?
With arresting them?
Yeah.
They
That's what I
don't
want.
have any legal authority to go outside of the state of Texas.
So they have to
When they
wait till
come back,
they
they have to come back.
How about
And there's
just
been a
firing
lot of
them?
people that would love to, to put it out there. We will know when a plane lands with enough Democrats to land here back in Texas to make a quorum. A lot of people said, have orange jumpsuits and handcuffs ready for them when they get off the
And
plane.
then is there any way, if the Republicans stand to lose all this money that they spent getting these bills up, and why don't we just sue the Democratic Party for the losses?
The current state law does not allow. And one of the good things, having Matt Rinaldi in as our chair, is there's been a lot of misinformation. And I'm not saying that Speaker Phelan is doing this intentionally, but he's putting information out there that Chairman Rinaldi is now saying, and he's actually, when he'll do a screenshot, show what the provision is. Well, here's a rule, he can do this, but there's nothing. If they keep it going on, he has the legal authority to reach into their account that daily stipend that they get, they can jerk that back. So there are some.
That should have been done yesterday.
Right. Well, they got it, but they can actually legally take that back. Yeah, the donors are supposedly paying for their
Yes.
trip up to DC, but they're still getting paid their daily stipends.
Yeah.
That's what the speaker has the authority to reach in there and get and put back in that state coffers.
This law needs to change. This
There-
is not right.
And it's not, I don't, well,
And this goes into what I'm going to wrap up before I give it over to Sharon. So from the precinct level, as precinct chairs and as activists at the precinct chair level, this is where we have to engage the people that live next to us and the people that are in these precincts. Because you're getting this information, but if it goes no further than you can't influence legislation. So it has to, you have to access your sphere of influence, your neighborhood. So even if you're not a precinct chair, you don't know who your precinct chair is. Sharon's got precinct numbers on these tables around here. Some of these are actually vacant precincts. Go to Sharon today and say, I want to adopt this precinct and I want to work this precinct and start sharing information. See, we spend too much time trying to just focus on candidates. We want to talk about candidates. But what about all of these bills and all this information that people have no clue about? That's how we win people. Because you foster relationships by taking information to them, educating them on the issues, so that when it comes time to say, I want you to vote for Sharon. Sharon stands for these things that you told me through our relationship are bothering you. So are you going to vote for the Democrat? Or are you going to vote for Sharon? So you might need to, if you don't like the name Republican and you don't like seeing an R by name, hold your nose and fill in the circle for Sharon, because she is going to represent what you say you want to stand for. So don't continue to vote against yourself. But that is up to us. That's the grassroots ground game. That informational stuff. We have to be informational.
Sorry, I got one last thing. It's been proposed to have a constitutional amendment. This goes to what we're going through right now. A lot of states, even in the state house, I mean, they all set up, at the beginning of the session, their rules for the session, etc. But a lot of states have it to where even in both of their House and Senate, that it's just like what happens in city council, 50% plus one. So there's discussion about pushing for the governor if they have us either go ahead and add it to this call, or if there's a second special session, add it to that call, put it on there to pass a bill for a constitutional amendment in November that the majority, 50% plus one, can conduct business in the House. And we don't have to worry about the
Well, did I hear you right? There were 6,000 bills this session alone?
Over 6,000, yes.
Over 6,000.
There's anywhere from 6 to 9,000
That's
every
a to or what we stand for is less government.
But a lot of that is here, rename, the bridge for, X, Y, Z, or, a lot of that.
Or to honor this person is dead.
Or multiple bills that are battling it out for the same thing.
Yes,
No
ma'am.
wonder nothing was done.
I'm kind of
Get 6,000
trying to
bills
educate
for
myself
that.
on the structure and how things work.
Yes.
But when you talk about complacency is a real problem from my perspective. You got the ground roots that's on fire, but when you have a legacy of bad representation in the Republican Party in Austin, you have a bad legacy of house speakers
Yep.
that are undermining, we are in control and actively undermining our agenda.
That's right.
But you know who influences that, man?
Really badly on the Republican Party to the point that honest, passionate conservatives aren't really sure they want to back you with their support, with the effort, with the block walking, and get all of their effort behind you, because it looks like this party is being run by rhinos. And are undermining.
Yes.
I'm not really sure
Except for
I want
Troy.
to block walk.
Yeah,
There's a
except for
whole
Troy,
other
yeah.
group that are full of conservatives that are suspicious of the Republican Party and are working against the Republican Party.
And too many times, it gets into that, everybody is bad, every other Republican is bad except mine. Mine's doing his job. We've got to get out of that mentality.
Now, my
Because-
question is,
that's just part of
I'm
it.
asking about the rules of the Republican Party. Can anybody put an R by their name, call themselves a Republican candidate? Or is there permission that they have to meet some kind of requirement? Does anybody fear
No.
about
We need
That- but
more
that-
guidance from
That's where,
you guys.
in the primary, that's where in the primary,
And people don't want to vote.
Let Sharon explain that real
Because
quick.
they put a bad name on it.
Going up.
Sharon's gonna
we gonna, it's Sharon's time, but she'll help explain that, but it's better vetting our primary candidate.
And I'm sorry, we've got they're trying to kick us out. Yo, wait.
Let's let Sharon speak.
We gotta go.
Use the mic.
Advocating their duty. Now, because what they said, that technology session will be all federal session.
All right, folks, we've got, they're closing us down here, so he's going to answer his question directly. I'm going to try to get through a few more things, but we're about to have to leave. So I do want to go over, if you would just go to the precinct map, because the biggest effort that we've got here, biggest problem we have is we've got several empty precinct chair positions. 2B just became available, was vacated in the last couple of weeks. So if you know somebody that lives there, or if you want to volunteer to help the ground game in 2B, we need you. 3 and 3A. 3 is downtown. 3A is over off Market Hall towards County Line Road and Rockwall Lake Estates. And then we had interviews at our last meeting for 3B, 3D, and 4A. So what we will do now, with the way the process works, they come and present themselves at one executive committee meeting, which they did in July, and then we will take votes in at the August meeting. However, each candidate must be nominated by a precinct chair, and then a vote is taken. The vote is a private vote, and then votes are taken from one room to the next room with 3 people watching the count, and so that it's all completely, transparent how that works. And just like our newest precinct chair, Alma McClintock, for Precinct 4, she came and presented, and it was all over Facebook. It was sent out in emails that precinct chair position was open. She applied, she interviewed, and we voted on her in July. So that's the process. It's very simple. If you're interested, please talk to me or one of the precinct chairs. precinct chairs, would you please stand up? If you're precinct chairs who are here, would you please stand? It's summer, so we need everybody here today. But they'll be available if, when we conclude here real quickly, well, they want us to leave, so we can't stand by our tables. Talk to them, talk to me. If you completed the volunteer sheet that was handed when you came in, we'll have all of your information and you'll be on our list and you'll be getting information about the activities and things that we're going to be doing going forward. Edna, is he giving me a few minutes, Edna? Is he giving me a few minutes? Okay. 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 5 minutes. Let's go to our priorities. So one thing I did was when I came in, I was elected June 1st, and I spent quite a bit of time talking to people, and just from my experience on the board for these last 3 years, thinking about what do we need to do going forward? What can we do to get more active? Although I must tell you that Rockwall County is one of the most active party counties in the state. Is that right, Troy?
That's right.
Yeah. So these are some of my priorities that I've set, and I'll just run through those real quickly for you. Fill all the empty precinct chairs, which we're in the process of trying to do now. That we've got these maps around. If you look, there's maps on your tables. We want those spots filled. We want to make sure that we're getting the ground game right. In August, we're going to have precinct chair training and workshop. That's going to be a full-day event on August 21st for those who are precinct chairs. And hopefully, that again, that's going to be, Troy's going to come out and light our fire on that. We want to write a code of ethics for the precinct and county chairs for the whole committee. Establish a budget for our precinct chair activities, which we had already talked about last year. We just never got to it. We have the funds, and we want to make that available for our precinct chairs so that we can go out and do these activities and events and send mail and emails and get people engaged, informed. During the last school board election, we heard from a lot of people, and we listened and we heard, and we want to do a better job at helping vet candidates. That doesn't mean we're going to pick candidates. That means what we will do is when people are interested, and you go out and you find somebody that you want to run, you put them up to run. When it comes to the forums or debates, whatever, however that looks in the coming months, we're going to ask more direct questions that they can't weasel out of, and we have a way of really knowing what they're about. And Bobby Delana is going to be heading up our legislative reports section committee, and he's going to tell us, he's going to help tell us how people are voting at our local levels and all the way up. And the SREC will be telling us about the state, but that's going to be great. And Steve Horowitz is going to be working on the school board side with Bobby to let us know from that. So we want it for all the entities, the counties, the cities, the school boards. When they're regular quarterly GOP events or activities like something like this, the face may change, it may look a little different location, but just to keep everybody knowing who we are. And so I don't want to hear any more questions about who's my precinct chair, who's my county chair, how do I get involved? And I already mentioned improve our forum and debate events, government oversights. We have a grassroots volunteer director. Sherry, would you raise your hand? That's Sherry London. She's going to be organizing our volunteer project. She's holding those sheets. When you came in, you were given a sheet to fill out with all your information. If you have it, please give it to her. She'll collect them, and we will get you on the list and get you involved wherever you want to be. Get out the vote and volunteer deputy registrar and voter registration. So John Beeman, I think he has to go. He's our get out the vote guy. He'll be working with Troy on the app and some other great tools the state has for us. Then Dalton Tassett is heading up the voter registration drive. We're having, stand up, Dalton, and we're having if you want to become a deputized registrar, volunteer deputized registrar, we're having a training on that on the 29th at the GOP office, and you can contact us about that. And I do want to represent, or also mention, we've got some efforts that we want to do for outreach. We want to contact, we just want to build a community of where people know that who we are and where we are. First responders, the high schools, and I'm proud to say we've got our first high school person over here. Keith, you want to stand up? He's from Heath High School. He's starting a chapter of 20 USA over there. So he's going to be a great starting point for us in that area. We want to reach out to the minorities. If you look around in here, we've got a shortage, right? And we know that people in our community vote the same way as we do. They have the same priorities. We just need to talk to them the great way that Troy was talking about. And corporate. So when new businesses are coming in, and we have businesses here that we know have, might want to be involved, that we can talk to them when they come in and do volunteer voter registration drives at their places if they want us to, and help them to get involved with the community. And then lastly, we have just to support and strengthen all of our local clubs and get everybody to work together. And I'm sorry, but we have to leave. If you have...
As you go out, Sharon, give an estimate. How many people you and Richard have signed up to be involved? Yes.
Well, last year I think we did around 100 between us. Well, I know that's probably...
She's not asking you to do something she's not doing.
That's right. That's right. And I do want to say this. I've been at this for 3 years now. I've been on the board for 3 years, and now I'm county chair. So if you want to get involved and you want to get active, it doesn't take a lot of time. Just put your feet to the wall, right? And if you would, help us with the tables and chairs on the way out. Thanks.